Welcome back, friend. So now we're moving from struggle, this channel of struggle, this tenaciousness of the 3828 to literally stubbornly find the meaning to life and to really truly know that we're just not here to just survive. We do have a purpose. We have a meaning. And to overcome that fear through the awareness that the physical body will actually move us there. So now we're moving up to the 57 and the 20. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm taking you through the individual aspect of this. So the knowing aspect of these two gates. And then we're going to do integration all on its own, in its own little piece. Because this energy here, this brainwave energy, this design of awareness is still in the knowing circuit. So it is about knowing or not knowing. So the channel of the brainwave, of course, again, we have recognition here and invitation. This needs to be invited. This penetrating awareness has to be invited. Whether you are, a manifester with this, whether you are a projector with this, whether you are a generator or a manifesting generator with this, this is about, inviting, being invited in to penetrate into someone else, to come to that deep awareness that is there. This is about individuality and empowerment. This is knowing, most of the time not knowing. It is in the now, it's hearing, and it's acoustic. It is the right ear of the 57. So this is a component of the knowing circuitry, even though both of these gates are in integration as well. What happens through here is that there is an expression of health or not through both the 5720 and the 4816. And I do not recall if I put that into the 4816 or not. So you can write it in your notes if you'd like. But the splenic center, the expression of these two channels is, am I healthy enough? Am I healthy? Am I not healthy? Because the spleen is trying to keep you healthy. It's trying to, guide you moment by moment by moment to be safe, to be healthy, and to survive. So this channel lies at the core of empowerment as the completion of the stream of intuition that begins in the 3828, where we seek fulfillment through purpose. So the nature of purpose can only be expressed through the intuition of the 5720. So the 5720 becomes a way to share the intelligence to empower others to be intelligent. And why are we talking about intelligence? Because the 50 lies in the splenic center. And the 50 is the seat of human intelligence. So the brainwave is deeply absorbed in strategizing for survival. Individuality is where we have a mutative capacity for transformation. Life invites you to allow your intuition to carry you in the now and to speak to you in the now. Intuition in the now, and it is projected channel, so it needs to be invited. Once that invitation is there, you can empower others. Life invited you to allow your intuition to carry you in the now and to speak to you in the now. The individual process is about, I am what I am, and I know what I am doing. But you can explain it to others so that they can be empowered. That's the difference here. So when we look at all of the individual circuitry, the individual circuitry is moving us through the entire body graph. Can you explain your knowing so that you can empower others? Can you explain your intuition and your ability to struggle for and fight for your own purpose so that you can empower others? So when Ra looked at hundreds of mystics and saints, the one common factor in all their designs is that they have individual circuitry. This is the mutative force, not just this channel, but mutative circuitry as a whole. So they had a channel. I don't know who the hundreds of mystics and saints that he took a look at their charts. I don't know. But in order for them to bring that mutative force, they all had an aspect of individuality. So individuality has the potential to have deep mutative impact on the other. Being invited to release the wisdom is so important for the mutation to land, in quotation marks, with the other. So when we get to the 20th gate, and we walk through the lines, you guys are going to see that the 6th line of the 20th gate is about wisdom. So in order for that wisdom to be released, there has to be an invitation. Again, challenge the need to know, and the individual knower can be fed. Don't tell these people. It's not about telling. It is about challenging them to know. I have an interesting, my body graph is interesting. I have a collective, I have an individual, and I have a tribal. But I recognize this challenge them to know. As someone who has a totally open identity, as someone who has a totally open ajna, there's no certainty for me as to direction. None. But when I'm challenged to know, that feeds me. That totally feeds me. So see these things, see these little aspects, and go into all the individuality. So understand that most of the keynotes, they're all intertwined, right? They're all intertwined within the individual circuitry. The channel of the brainwave is also going to be competitive because we have the 51, 20, 25 as part of the individual circuitry, even though it is a centering circuit. But it's also going to be, wanting to live life to its own convictions. It's going to, want to have perfected form. So you bring in all the individual aspects and you watch them kind of come out through the penetrating awareness and the brainwave. So the 38 and the 39 and the 43, they're all deaf. So telling them what to do is absolutely futile. They do not listen. They do not pay attention to anyone else. It is not their business. They must be invited to a path of knowing, and they must struggle to know their own knowing. So life entices you to use your intuition or your intuitive awareness to empower your own well-being and speak your truth and intuitive insights in the moment. This is the ability to think and speak on your feet without inner censorship. As soon as the mind starts getting in the way, no longer is this intuition. Then it's the mental plane trying to, bring out whatever the mental plane wants to bring out. This particular channel and all individuality is really truly about being in the moment. So you will often find that your spontaneous words and instincts get to the core of the situation quickly without you having to think about it. Your alertness to the receptivity or not of others allows you to share your intuition with them as true knowing and reduces misunderstanding and resistance. So, why do we talk about sharing? The 28 and the 57 sit in duality, bonding. So even though they are not collective aspects, this is still about sharing and bonding and relationships when we get to the duality aspect of the mandala. So sharing your intuition with them as true knowing and reduces misunderstanding and resistance. And why true knowing? Why your own truth? Well, because the 61, which is in the individual circuitry, is about inner truth. So for individuals, it is an inner truth story. And that's our connection to the matrix. So this type of spontaneity requires overcoming a fear of the unknown by learning to listen and to act on and trust your intuitive impulses completely. So whether or not, let's say you're emotional and your inner authority is emotional, there's still going to be this spontaneity of the brainwave, this penetrating awareness that will be invited out. This will be a strength that comes along with your design. But if you have an emotional inner authority, if you have a sacral inner authority, those are your inner authorities to use. But the spontaneity of your penetrating awareness can be expressed when invited. So this is the channel of respondability when we look at it through the lens of caring. So again, on the side of the spleen, there are particular gates that we talk about caring. Caring is survival based. It's about surviving in the moment. The 20th gate is this gate of individualism and a design of caring for oneself in the now or not. So caring is an assurance that the bond will survive. Sex can't do that. Only caring can do that. That's the spleen's role. We will survive. And why do we talk about that bond that will survive? Well, we're in the quarter of duality with this 57th gate. There's a bond that will survive. Bonds will be made. Bonds will be broken. The spleen is going to, let you know whether or not that being is healthy to have in your life or not. So if your spleen is undefined, the not self there is saying, we got to hold on. So never letting anything go. But in the true essence of the design, the 57 will bond and will care for as a survival mechanism. Now, it's about trusting the inner authority as to what bond is healthy for you and what bond is not healthy for you. And this isn't, sex is a part of the 57, but this is not, that was part of the 28. The 57 is caring only. And this isn't about sex. This is about the survival in the now. So the splenic center is only concerned with survival. So if the splenic center does not feel safe or healthy, it will not respond to caring for anyone else. I look at this and I go, now I can see why there's some layers here where people will believe that the other person is narcissistic. I don't even know if I really love that word or not. We all know these people. But there are aspects in design that come across as very narcissistic. And the spleen really is one of them. Because caring on the individual aspect of the spleen, okay, so the 28 and the 57, even though they're in the bonding, even though they're in duality, this really is about, I need to take care of myself first so that I can care for someone else. So caring is there when it is needed, and surrendering to this is the power of knowing the design and honoring the other. So how do I put this to you? it isn't about caring all the time, okay? The spleen isn't like caring all the time. The spleen in the 28 and the 57 are saying, like, if it's right, I will care for you. If it is required, if the survival of this is important. This is caring, this is the viewpoint here. It's very pinpointed and is very to the point. There's no fluff over here in the spleen. There's no, roses and romance, and, the 28 brings a little bit of that, as I indicated in the last video. But the spleen, its main 100% is survival. And it's right now, and it isn't, fluffing it up. It isn't bringing the emotions into it, because the emotions play no part over here. This is very strategic. It's very survival driven and motivated. So the possibility of awareness to struggle for clarity or not. This is the right ear. So being able to really hear in the now. This is the gate of intuition. It's deeply acoustic. So this is a special gate, as it is the awareness of integration. It is our primary awareness for integration. There are 3 functions. It can go into 3 different channels, 3 different strengths here. Perfected form of the 10, which establishes the nature of perfected form for survival. The power, that power channel to the 34, this is awareness that establishes the archetype of being human. And the brainwave to the 20, a penetrating awareness in the now. The fear here is the fear of tomorrow, an awareness of how to stay alive. That's what the spleen is doing for us, moment by moment. That is what our lymph system, that's what our immune system is doing. The 57 is this gate of concern, a design of listening or not. So you hear whether or not someone needs caring. This is a verbal foreplay. It does not have to be articulated. It is a frequency. Like, for example, say your spouse or your partner stubs their toe and you say, "Aw." Or you go, there's this sense that you care about the disturbance that they've been going through. This is the acoustic knowing that you care for or have concern for the other. It is a tone that you express that is picked up acoustically. So if you're sharing something with an individual and it is something that they do not need to be concerned about, they go back to being self-concerned. You must acoustically draw in their concern to pull them into the conversation. So for individuals, if somebody has, individual channels, period, but especially this 57 or the 5720, there is a self-concern here. Individuals are concerned about self, and then they move outwards. But without the self, without that physical body, without their health and wellness in the moment, there is nothing else. So if you're speaking to an individual, if you're speaking to somebody, especially with this gate, and there's nothing that they need to be concerned about in the moment, they're going to just be in self-concern. If there's something that they need to take care of in the moment, if there's something that needs to be taken care of in the moment, they'll be there. But if there isn't, they're not there. And the spleen feels cold to people. Like, it's not emotional, it's not fluffy, it isn't that. The spleen is, in the moment. And of course, there's a certain deafness in every single gate. This isn't about influencing the individual to care. It is about the mutative evolutionary process that is worth the struggle to care or not. if the acoustics of what it is hearing is not worth caring about, they're not going to invest in the conversation or the action. This is important to grasp. If they're, if they're not required in that moment, and if there's nothing, threatening survival, these beings are not, they're not going to invest and utilize their energy towards whatever it is. And again, remember, the spleen is sitting here, and on the other side we have and I'm going to, this is not a negative aspect, but there's the drama of the emotional wave happening. And the spleen within this drama of the emotional wave that is also pulsating through all emotional circuitry. The splenic side here is saying, listen, I have to be able to keep you healthy and safe right now. So just ride out that wave, and if you need me, I'll be here. So the chemistry, of course, is always melancholy that flows through the individual circuitry. So you aren't listening or engaged, and the other wants a reason for that. Why don't you care about blah, 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 blah? And you don't know. You don't know. So you make up a reason for the melancholy or the non-attachment. That's the not-self. You don't know why you don't, there is no concern. It's just mechanical. You don't have to get caught up in the drama. If there is a survival need, you'll be there. So if the caring or the romance of this particular gate is not going to bring any mutation to the relationship, the individual really is not interested. So the moment the other needs them, they'll be there. However, it is not always there. It's not always 24/7 on. It's not just sitting around, being in the melodrama of any of it. It is self-concerned until it is required to be pulled out by the relationship for survival purposes. So when we look at the 57 and we walk the 57, let's walk through and just take a look at how does the 57 show up. Now, this is the extraordinary power of clarity. But then we look over at the solar plex, and we're asking the solar plex to come to clarity. Over here, it is clear. It is in the moment. But clarity cannot come to the solar plex unless it's riding its wave, not getting caught up in the ups and the downs. And it is waiting for that time to come to clarity. So the right angle cross of penetration, intuitively reach into others' lives, to understand the motivations, ambitions, and fears. So the juxtaposition of intuition is expanding your knowing and perceiving that knowledge that is far beyond the range of others. And the left angle cross of the clarion is really assisting others to awaken to their own awareness. So at its core, at its base, this is confusion, the gift of penetrating into the inner meaning, that ensured timely action, the possibility of the intuition penetrating into the inner meaning. The moon in detriment, where feelings are no substitute for clarity and can lead to indecision. The possibility that confusion will overpower the intuition. So it really is the recognition that your intuition is there and operating. Let it truly do its job. You're penetrating to that inner meaning. So you're penetrating in, and always at the beginning of anything, there's a little bit of confusion. Because human beings, for the most part, do not want to be seen at the very core and depth of who they are. They're ashamed of it. So this intuition has that ability. However, remember that it needs to be invited. And when you're in a situation, you can penetrate in. You can penetrate into the very inner meaning of the situation. However, wait for that invitation to share that. You know, this gentle movement of being able to share that penetration because there is a power of clarity. And then we have the cleansing. So the clarity to establish proper values and ideals must be accompanied by resolute determination to maintain them. Perfected cleansing through inner realization. The possibility for proper values and ideals through intuition. So here, these people learn to see that their intuition really does work. You have to figure it out in introspection. So you have to see that your intuition really works. So it's about becoming this, I don't even want to say clear channel, but it's about cleansing the self. You know, so the superficial cleansing that tends to hide dirt underneath the carpet. The possibility that the depth of intuition will be treated superficially. Now, when we get to the 20, you're going to understand superficiality. But here, it's about, you're going deep. So, be able to be clean, be able to be clear, be able to be in the moment so that those proper values and ideals can, sustain itself. And then acuteness, the perfected intelligence where clarity eliminates doubt and ensures manifestation. The possibility of perfected intuition. There is no polarity here. The third line, so just think about this. The third line throughout all of the individual circuitry and throughout the whole game here is about perfected intelligence. How do you get to perfected intelligence? Trial and error, bonds made, bonds broken. Becoming, being that pioneer. Stepping out and allowing for the manifesting, the honing in of your own acute intuitive insight. So it can be confusing. To cleanse yourself, to be that clean channel so that acuteness can come in. And then the 4, this director, the mastery of relationships that through clarity can maximize productivity while the sensitivity to interrelationships will ensure harmony. The possible intuitive clarity to master relationships. Why are we talking about relationships? Again, the quarter of duality is what we are in, the quarter of bonding. We need the other. And the 4th line needs to have the other so that they have someone to externalize. So that they have someone to externalize their intuitive insight to. So that the mutation for both parties can land. Through invitation, of course. A tendency given this position to be dictatorial rather than directorial. With the gift of clarity, mastering relationships, the possibility to intuitively be dictatorial. So here, this dictatorialism lies in the ability, to honor your own intuition and to be able to stay alive through a need for others. And directing others, right? This direction. What relationship is good? What relationship is not good? Remember, when we're talking about the spleen, this is feel good. The spleen is all about, holding on to what what's good or not for it. And if the mind gets in the way, it can get very dictatorial versus helping people direct themselves intuitively so that they can come to a place of extraordinary power, of this clarity of the intuition. And then 5, this progression, the natural ability to establish new forms while maintaining the powers of reevaluation and reexamination. This provides the clarity to examine the data and assess the process, the possible intuitive gift for evaluation. This is really about, recognizing the forms that can allow the collective to survive. We are designed to progress. So now that we're able to, walk through a little bit of confusion, cleanse ourselves mentally so that we can have a beautiful, intuitive grasp of our reality and come to this acuteness so that we can absolutely know what is the correct relationship for us or not, so that we can progress, so that we're able to assess and evaluate based off of this intuition. And then the utilization, the acceptance that clarity is a double-edged sword. There are situations where understanding cannot lead to rectification. Here, with Uranus's innovative quality, can generally make the best out of an otherwise difficult but rarely permanent situation. Where there is no answer, only the possibilities of the intuition can make the best out of a difficult situation. Utilizing the intuition. The 6th line again, they're standing on the horizon. They're standing on the horizon. And we just walked through struggle. We're walking through this difficult situation. And when we can trust our intuition, and then when I look at the other side and we have the fates in the 30 of that solar plex, the fates will get us what we deserve. And it's about the intuitive clarity to really penetrate into our own intuition and utilize that in those moments, in those right now moments. Now, whether you have this gate defined or not, we all have intuition. We are all designed to have our connection with Source. But what you'll notice here is that if you don't have it, intuition comes and goes. That penetrating awareness isn't always there. It's going to come and go as it needs to, as you interact with other people. Now we're going to move to the 20. And the 20 is an interesting gate because the 20 in the throat, that voice can come from numerous different places. So this is about manifestation of clarity or not. It is in the now. It is, again, mutative. Needs to be recognized, needs to be invited. It is the voice of I know I am. That shouldn't say not, that should say now. I know I am now. It's the existential gate of contemplation in the now. Existential meaning it is present. It pulls you into the present moment. It is the most complex gate in the throat as it is expressing multiple aspects of the body graph. The 20, this contemplation, this is the integrated action. There is decisive or indecisive action. Why? because the individual circuitry is always saying, it is always saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Oh, I know. So there's decisive action, there's indecisive action or inaction. You see everything within your own context, not tied in with others. It is a self-absorbed in your own process. Has nothing to do with anybody else, and it is intended to operate in response. And it is literally responding to that now. So if the 20 is connected to the 34, I am in action now or not. If the 20, the 34, and the 57 there, I know I am in action now or not. If the 20 is connected to the 34 and the 10, I am myself in action now or not. And the 20 connected to the 34, the 10, and the 57, which would be the whole integrative circuitry and a portion of the knowing circuitry, it goes, I know, I am myself in action now or not. This is the individual's capacity to survive or not. It is completely existential. It is operating in the now. So Ra had indicated that the 3420, that channel of charisma, is a channeler. When you have this, you have the possibility of being a very clear channel. Now, of course, if you listen to Ra, he was like, oh, I'm not, he didn't believe in people channeling information, and yet his biggest moneymaker of his whole life, and the one thing that he is definitely known for, is channeling the voice for the human design system. So it's really fun to watch and listen to Ra speak, because he is always playing the duality, always. So the 20th gate is his gate of individualism. It is a design of caring for oneself or not. It's about finding that verbal expression whether or not you literally care. Literally. Are you going to care for someone or not verbally? So this is a part of my design. And I have it on the design side and I have it on the personality side. What's really fun is I say this to my husband all the time, even though he's a manifester. I know he's out, he's doing his thing, and if I don't hear from him, because he's running heavy equipment all the time, he's, with animals and all that, I do say to him, you okay? I say this to him all the time. And if the other person says yes, the caring is over. The caring here, again, is all about, on the splenic side, it is absolutely in the moment. If he is alive, okay, I'm done. I don't need to talk to him or ask him or probe him or any of that. Doesn't matter. He's okay. He's surviving. When we look, at the 20th gate, it is a very interesting gate because it has some real interesting keynoting here. So the recognition and awareness in the now, which transforms understanding into right action. So this kind of, gives some confusion, because recognition and awareness, this isn't an awareness gate. It's mechanical. It brings you into the now mechanically. So it is a mechanical gate that has direct access to awareness in the 57 and in the splenic center. So there's a potential for awareness in that sense. But this is strictly mechanical. This is where, the presence is spoken and expressed when recognized and invited. This isn't collective. This is individual. It's right now. It's in the moment. And it is, occupied entirely in the present. So the right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix, the transformation in the now, and always ahead of your time as the mutation comes into your life. This is the energy that we're moving to, you guys, in 2027. And again, here we are, we're in the year 2020, and the world has completely turned upside down because the bloodline leadership of the cross of planning is melting away, it's dissipating. And the individual autonomy is coming out in this sleeping phoenix. We've been, the 61st gate has been a part of the cross of planning, that global orchestrated directory, for 400 years. And the truth is, we are autonomous beings. The truth is, we are the mechanical structure that is right here in this meat suit that every scientist is doing its, best to replicate outside of us. We are ahead of our time as a human being. The juxtaposition of the now is focused on the present moment. And the left angle cross of duality, the duality of individuality and being inclusive with others. The 20th gate is, it's playing in this in this duality. And how, very counterintuitive is that to all of the energy that's here, because we're talking about integration, we are talking about knowing, we are talking about individuality and mutation, now, presence, and yet we also know as individuals that we need to be inclusive with the other, even though the 20th gate is in the form. The quarter of form, this is a quarter of creating the form, this building of the Maya. Even though that's the quarter that it's in, it also has an aspect saying, we know we need the other. So the superficiality, a reliance on shallowness. The raising of superficiality to an art form, the sloganeer, the superficial expression as an art form. The superficial expression of the personality, the expression of the superficial personality. So, superficiality here, this is a part of my design, so I know this quite well. Even though the 20th gate, again, is not about awareness, it is being fed awareness. And I do not have the 57, but I have the 20. So I'm gaining a ton of wisdom from the 57. So what the 20 really is doing is that it looks like it's being superficial. It appears that it is shallow. And yet the antenna here, the antenna of, being in the now and being in this contemplation, constantly contemplating right now, right now, right now, right now, is that there is a ton of, for lack of better word, it's alert to everything. And there is a depth here. And, that's depth is not one of the keynotes, but I want you to understand that there's, gosh, how do I explain this? Being in the now, it's like there are these little filaments going out everywhere from this 20th gate, and it is in contact with the entire matrix because this is the expression of integration. This is the expression of the perfected form, of survival, of charisma. So even though it looks very shallow and at times can express itself in a very shallow form, for me, I see this as bringing the complexity into simplicity. It's an art form to be able to do that. The 5720 was a part of Ra's design, and I have the 3420, and I'm not saying that I can break this down in such a simplistic way, but that really is my whole purpose, is to be a contagion for this system and simplistically, superficially bring you the information. Teach you in a way that when you drop into your depth, that you did it from a place of superficiality and then moved your way through it. The 2 is this dogmatist, so the restrictive and intentionally limited understanding. The limitation of personal and exclusive is less negative through aesthetic withdrawal, a restrictive awareness in the now. The power to lead others down a narrow path, a restrictive awareness in the now. Again, simplicity. So these people are in the now, but what they are projecting out into the now is this narrow field. Seeing certain things in the now because they do not have the entire periphery. It's about bringing down the simplicity. Bringing it into a simplistic expression. So the self-awareness here, understanding derived from analysis of personal actions and effects. The proper attunement and development of the personality through self-consciousness. The expression of self-conscious awareness in the now. Self-consciousness in the extreme that hampers development. The expression of self-consciousness in the extreme. Remember, the 3rd line, trial and error. This is the material plane. However, the 3rd line is the foundational process for the 6. And the 6 is always out on the horizon, out on that shoreline, looking into the future. And how does it do that? How does the 20 come to a place of wisdom in the 6? Well, it has to be through self-awareness. That's how integration, perfected form, the archetype of a human, and charisma, and this brainwave, this penetrating awareness, has to start with the self. Being fully self-conscious. And being existential and watching your own moving. This is the other piece of my design. And then 4, this is the application, recognition, and awareness that can only be transformed into action in cooperation with those who have the ability to act upon the understanding. So the teacher whose students transcend him, where the expression of awareness can only be turned into action through others. This is the teacher. A tendency to prefer theory to application. The expression of awareness as theory with little interest in its application. Again, here we are, we're existential. We're keeping it simple. We're coming to a deep place of self-awareness so that we can absolutely help and teach others. Apply the mechanical understanding of presence in the now so that they can come to the 5th line of realism. This contemplation in and of itself is no guarantee of success. Where concentration on detail in a perfected form, the success of expressing awareness through detail. Where reality creates dissatisfaction and adds to instability, the expression of awareness in the now through dissatisfaction with the reality one sees. Now here we are. And again, what does the individual process really want? The individual process really wants to be able to explain itself. It wants to be able to bring that explanation and that expression of the mutation out into the world so that the mutation can land with other people. And why do we do this verbally? We do this verbally because of the acoustics. We're in this frequency. You know, can the mutation happen through you, be permeated in your aura, and then land with somebody else? I see no reason why it can't be. However, when we look at the mechanics of design, this really is verbally expressing the mutation so that, you know, the realism of the contemplation can be presented. And at the very, very top of this whole heap that's looking out, that is saying, okay, now that we see the realism of our own contemplation, not that my mutation, I don't want you to believe what I see. I want you to see what you see. But come to it through the clear, simplistic self-awareness and apply it. So that the wisdom, the contemplation, which results in the ability to apply understanding, the establishment of the benefit of society, values, ideals, and their patterns and how they can be understood and applied, the ability to transform individual awareness for the general application and understanding, the same as above, but motivated by the self-satisfying mental challenge rather than altruism. The ability to transform individual awareness for general application for the mental challenge. Excuse me. You know, I do a lot of YouTube. I do a lot of content. And I often have, you know, comments or questions, you know, down the road from the time I did a video. And honestly, for the most part, I am absolutely unaware of what is spoken about. I can do a video and 10 minutes later not even be able to tell you what the content of that was. Because when I'm in it, when I'm sitting in the presence, and I'm sitting right here, there is this ability for this mechanism, this 20th gate, to transform understanding into right action without me even having any idea what's happening. So again, I look and may sound very superficial. And bringing this and expressing this in a way that, you know, brings the simplicity to it. But the tentacles, that's what I see from this 20th gate, is like all of these filaments just reaching out. And being connected to the awareness field, even though this is a mechanism. This isn't an awareness gate. But it is in the contemplation of the now, right now. It's like it has its pulse of what's going on and what's coming all at the same time. So if you have any of this energy in your body graph, or you do not, this is where we can contemplate, watch it play out in the world, see it, recognize it. You know, I see this in Ra when he speaks. And I see when he's, when I hear him and he's on a roll and all of a sudden his mind gets in the way, it's like all of a sudden there is this interruption to his pattern, and he loses that connection. I know that he smoked, and he drank a lot of coffee, and it's so interesting to watch and listen to. I was never a part of any of his courses. I came to human design after he was gone off the planet. But when he's in it, and this awareness and contemplation right now is there, he's providing amazing information. When he breaks out of it, I can tell that either his students weren't ready, or he wasn't ready. But watch how this brainwave plays out. Watch how this penetration, watch how intuition, is there for you in a solid way, or maybe it comes and goes. For me, I don't have the 57. It comes and it goes. I watch people with the 57, how it is always there. It is something that, they totally take for granted. So watch and just see how all this plays out, Let's chat about it when we drop into our weekly sessions. All right. Talk to you. Bye.